Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jazzy Kitty Show. I'm Anelda Attaway, also known as Jazzy Kitty, the CEO and publisher of Jazzy Kitty Publications. And I'm so excited because I have with me tonight author Mark Wrobel. He is an awesome writer, and I want y'all to get to know him because he has an awesome writing career. He has written 6 books, and a children's book is on the way. The children's book is called Mark the Disabled Superhero. And I'm telling you, if you have any children that's disabled or you know someone that's disabled, this book is for you. Mark, before we talk about your books, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? What do you do besides writing books?
Now, may I say that it is nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this interview. Well, besides writing books, I go cliff climbing. I do a lot of stuff outdoors. I I go swimming. I do a lot of underwater cave explorations, as well as I I do like also do underwater cave exploration as well as outdoor cave explorations as well. Like I said, I climb cliffs without ropes. So
Wow,
um,
that is awesome.
so I do besides writing, I do spend a lot of times outdoors. And to be honest with you, being outdoors with my friends, sometimes it allows me, it just gives me the inspiration for some of my books, for my writing sometimes.
Wow. Okay, so you can tell us what inspired you to write your books.
Well, there are several, because with the most inspiring thing for writing my books was my father, because at at my house, when my dad, because my father's deceased at this point, um, when my dad was still alive, we would have all these discussions about different topics, different things. My father used to say, "Hey, you know, we would talk about history, we would talk about this and that." So that's because, see, when it comes to one of my books is called Progressive Credentialism versus Ageism, and and the reason I wrote about progressive credentialism versus ageism, because nowadays what I do notice is that yes, people are being credentialed, but they are not being educated, and the reason they're being credentialed but not educated is because their their parents are not involved enough in their children's education, because in my father's opinion, and also in my opinion as well, your education does not stop when you finish your homework, or when you get out of school, you come home and just do your homework. Your education also should continue with discussion, sit at a table, and put out an argument, and solve it this way or this way. And that's what education is about. Your education does not stop in school.
Wow.
Your education should continue at home
Well, you
as well.
mentioned that title, Progressive Traditional versus Ageism. Can you tell the listeners the other books you've written?
Yes, I also, besides progressive credentialism versus ageism, I wrote The American Holocaust, and one of my most controversial but my most thorough research books is The Unknown Secrets of World War II, start of the coming Civil War. And I also written a military fiction book called The Operation Wrath of Saladin, and I also wrote the other my my other book that I have written that is also controversial but well researched is called The Fall of the American Empire as well. So I have total of uh, 5 or 6 books
Six,
already
six. Yeah,
published.
six books, and seven. The seventh on the way. This
Yes, and
children's book. I'm so
and
proud of you.
and the seventh one is on the way. Yeah. And to be honest with you, one of my books, The Unknown Secrets of World War II. The reason I wrote that book, the inspiration for that book was my father, because we at home we used to. When I said the education continues at home, at our house when my dad was living, we used to sit at a kitchen table and we discussed history. And he said, my father used to say, what if I told you? And when we discuss history, it and what else also inspired me, me and my dad used to watch a lot of the History Channel, and we thought to ourselves, what if about the World War II, what we were taught, they only taught us half of, they told about World War II, they told us half the story, but they didn't tell us the other half of the story. And that's why, and when me and my dad had the discussions, after we had the discussions and all of that, he put some excellent topics for discussion, and then I looked up the information, and that's how I got my research material for my most controversial book called The Unknown Secrets of World War II.
So
And it
that's how
is,
you got the idea to write that book, because you feel as
uh,
though people only was getting half the story.
yes, half the story, because because with my dad, he showed me that there's more to the story that they're telling us. And I was always about, I was a kind of kid. Even when I was little, I was a curious kid. So you know and I had to go dig deeper into it.
Wow.
So,
So would you
so
say that your father is a big reason why you discovered your talent of writing books?
yes, that's one of the my father was one of the reasons. But the other way that I discovered that I could write books, because that I hold 2 college degrees.
Mhm.
I hold an associate's degree in arts and information systems, and I hold a bachelor's degree in computer science and homeland security management. And the way I discovered that I had talents for writing and research is because I did a lot of research in college, and I had to write thesis papers, and I had to do a lot of research during my college career, and and I was getting straight A's for my research papers. So my research, I knew that if I can write a research paper, then then I can also write a book like The Unknown Secrets of World War II. My biggest help in writing that book of The Unknown Secrets of World War II were 2 things. My father, because he we would have a debate, and he would show me different things, where to look and all that. And the other piece of my research was because there used to be on cable, there used to be a good channel called the History Channel. So when you combine my father's when he showed me things, and when you combine that and the History Channel, that was my inspiration to write The Unknown Secrets of World War II, like you mentioned before. That because I felt that people were not getting the whole story, they were just getting half of the story. But there's also the other half of it.
Wow. So you're saying your research, a lot of it came from the History Channel and your dad. Um,
See that when it comes to research for a book like Unknown Secrets of World War II, the information is out there because of the internet. There are resources out there. You just got to know where to look for it.
wow. Well, I published the book, so I have read them, and I'm telling the listeners they're very, very interesting. I learned a lot from them. Yes, some say they're controversial, but it makes you pause and think, well, is this right? And maybe want you to go and do your own research to see,
And
if you know what you're talking about. But I'm telling you, I did some Googling and everything, and you were right on point. And I'm so glad you wrote your books, and I'm encouraging the listeners to become a fan of your books and try to read them because you teach us so much that we did not know. I wanted to know, is any of your research ever come for your life experiences, or is just the stuff that you find, on the History Channel, your dad, internet, or whatever? Did any
well,
life
well,
lessons?
the one of the research for the rest of my books, for some of the books, was one of mine was the life experience I had, because for one of my books called The American Holocaust. Now, I would have never written this particular book until I had an experience. Me and my dad had the experience of a lifetime, and whether it was God's grace that I was at the right place at the right time, because I actually met the people that I was writing about in the book, in one of my books called The American Holocaust. I can't go any further than that for obvious reasons, but the book like The American Holocaust, The Fall of the American Empire, and Start of the Civil War, was I wrote those books from experiences that me and my dad had in our lifetime.
Wow.
And and um, and so what I'm telling you right now is that, like, for example, I did mention in my book, in one of my books, it was The Unknown Secrets of World War II. I could tell you right now that the Vril Society still exists today. And I did mention the creation of the European Union, and I will tell you right now in my book that I mentioned the Vril Society. Well, the Vril Society itself did not go away after World War II. They had part in creating the European Union as we know it today.
Mark, I'm so impressed with you. Such a great writer, and you're very intelligent. Can you tell the listeners, do you have like a favorite book out of all six books, or
Um,
you love them
I
all?
have yes, I have, out of all six books, I have two of them. Well, and then what I did, my last book, it was the Operation Wrath of Southern, because I decided to kind of dabble in what we call military fiction, like my other inspirational author Tom Clancy, and some other that did this kind of. So I gave it a whirl, as they say, and I also dabbled into a what we call a military fiction book, where I came up with the book called Operation Wrath of Saladin as well. That's still available, and I'm glad that you have published it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I had the opportunity to publish it and meet you because I learned so much from your books. And I'm really excited about your new book that's coming out soon. Um, I want you to elaborate a little bit and tell the listeners why you felt it in your heart, because this book seems a little personal to you. Um, the children's book is just going to help so many parents that have children that's disabled or know someone disabled. So, could you tell a little bit about this book and why you wrote it?
Yes, yes, because the reason I decided to write the children's book, the the disabled superhero, Mark the disabled superhero, is because what I noticed is that there isn't that many that many what we call. Let me put it to you this way. How can I put this in an intelligent way? Um, well, I'm thinking is that there is not enough like heroes for people with disabilities to actually have. So I know we had the Superman, Spider-Man, RoboCop, Flash, and all those other ones, but there's not enough superheroes for people with disabilities. So I've kind of came up with it on my own with some friend, and I discussed it with certain friends of mine how to, because I wanted to come up with what do you call a superhero for people with disabilities, and if it was even possible, so that's how I came up with it through friends of mine. We talked about it, and so they actually helped me come up with an idea because like I said, there's not enough superheroes for people with disabilities. So I just came up with a superhero of my own.
Well, that's awesome. So you do have a disability too, Mark. But I'm excited to tell the listening audience that doesn't stop you. You
That-
are well educated, like you said earlier about your rock climbing, cliff climbing, everything that you do, and outdoors. You're wonderful. That's all I have to say about you. You're really, really wonderful. And I just
yes,
want to say something
and
about your
and
books myself.
and and
Yeah,
then
go ahead,
and
dear.
then that book because like I said, the reason I wrote progressive credentialism versus ageism because as I noticed, yeah, because I went through high school, I went through I went through grade school, high school, and college, and what I did notice it is that yes, you go to these institutions, and to some degree, I felt that yes, well, my I felt about this that my true learning actually started when I was in college. Okay, that's when the true learning started about different things about history, mathematics, and all those wonderful things. But what I still notice, and the reason I wrote this progressive credentialism versus ageism, because I felt that the kids today, whether they go through our our grade school, our high school, and to some degree our college, to some degree, college stuff, they are not being educated. They're being credentialed because, and the reason I felt that they're being credentialed is yes, because yes, they do their homework, they do their assignments, blah blah blah. But I feel that doing your assignments and all this stuff, it's just basically you're filling out the paperwork in order to get stamped. But like I said, in order to get you through education, yes, high school, grade school, high school, and college plays a big part of it. But also, your education does not end, even because your education should continue even at home.
Wow.
So
Uh, yes, go ahead. You want to say something else,
that,
Mark?
that's why I wrote this thing like I said, progressive credentialism versus ageism, because what I notice is that the children that our youth is being in those schools are being stamped and credentialed, but they're not really being educated, because to me education also should as an educated person, you should be able to explore and research topics that interest you, for
That's
example.
wonderful. Well, you did mention friends. So I know one of your friends that I know of, and that's Carl, and I know Amber. Well, you can give them a shout out because a lot of them have been very supportive
Yes,
of writing
yeah,
for you. So just give them a shout out.
Yes, and they were speaking of friends because they're part of my life too. They're part of my education too, as well. My friend Carl, I want to give a shout out to my friends Carl Arcaro, to Amber Arcaro, and to Carla Arcaro because there were and to my friend Joseph that I go explore, and it takes me on the he takes me on the hikes with him as well, because it's like, because if it wasn't for, yes, my dad passed away, but they like people like Carl, Amber, Carla, and even Joe, my friend Joe, are basically my inspiration to continue to be a good writer. So that's why I wanted to give them a shout out in in this particular interview as well, because if it was, they are great people, and what they're doing is they are contributors to my success, and I do. That's why I do enjoy, and I do love them as my friends.
Wonderful. I know they're very encouraging. So I wanted to
Yes.
tell the listeners, I just want to say Mark's books, some of them are controversial, but they're very informational. So they will provide both for you to learn so much that you did not know. Like he said, secrets and stuff, it comes out, and things that you wouldn't know before. So I'm encouraging you all to get his books. Google his name. It comes up, his Facebook page, everything, so you can learn more about Mark. And I just, his everything is available worldwide online, and we're trying to get them in some other places that we think that will help, especially for kids that's disabled with autism and everything. But like I said, they're all online: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Goodreads, to name a few. So, and if you want to become a published author, you can call us at 877-782-5550, and email us at Anelda at jazzykittypublications.com. So, Mark, before we go, do you have anything else you would like the listeners to know?
Well, first of all, like I said, I would like to thank Miss Imelda Hathaway to actually, I am so grateful to Jazzy Kitty Publications to even let me publish my controversial books, because no other, what do you call, no other publisher would want to touch them, and because they're controversial, but like I said, like you said, they're excellent. So that's why I'm grateful to Miss Anella Hathaway for allowing me to publish those books. And I am so grateful to have friends such as Carl Arcaro and Amber Arcaro and even Joe for supporting me, um, and Carla as well, because they're what we call my support for my writing career. Because without them, this writing career would not be possible.
Awesome. And we know Carl wanted to join us tonight, but he had another obligation. So we miss him because he was going to tell us a little bit about the books that he liked, and why we should grab your books. But in his absence, I'm telling you, please support Mark Wrobel, because his books will change your life in the way you think about things and the way you process things in this world today. You would even start thinking about, why are we in the war? All the things, like you said, history. If you don't watch the history, you won't know your history. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to Jazzy Kitty Show, and you all have a blessed day. And we'll be back again. So stay tuned. Bye bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.